And welcome to the Bleed Blue Daily Show. We are about 30 minutes behind schedule. We had to figure out some technical difficulties there, but we have figured the technical difficulties out, and we are live, and everyone can hear Jaden now.
I have been on screens that I did not know existed. I have performed tasks that I was unaware were possible, and we are finally live 30 minutes later to talk about just so many things. A lot of things
Yeah,
are occurring today.
so many things, but the main thing is that we have figured it out.
We're here. We get to speak.
Do we though?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. For a second, you scared me there for a second. I thought I was muted again.
No. So we are officially in basketball season as of today. The men's and women's basketball teams are both in action. The men's team take on Wright State tonight. The women's team play in about 2.5 hours, so we're gonna probably have to go a little bit shorter because you got to get to a basketball game so you can cover it.
I will be there.
And it's we're off and running. We'll talk a little bit of football as well, but since this is the start of basketball season, we definitely want to talk a little bit about it. The women's team take on UC Upstate. Last year, they finished second in their conference, and the men take on Wright State tonight. Wright State finished in the quarterfinals of the Horizon League. They did beat Louisville on the road last year, so that was kind of a thing. But who didn't beat Louisville last year? So, I mean, is it really a thing? It's maybe a name only. They played Western Kentucky. They lost, but they are returning some players, aren't they, Jaden? And they've got a lot of kind of height on the perimeter, and they've got some decent size inside.
Yeah, talking about Wright State, they do lose three of their top four scorers from last season. Top two scorers leave for graduation. Fourth scorer transfers to Cal Poly. So Brandon Noel, 6'8", kind of big man, good shooter, but doesn't look to shoot a lot. Is kind of their leading scorer coming back, averaged 14.5 points per game. He's preseason conference player of the year for their conference. And then Alex, y'all can look it up. I have no idea how to say this. Hubergetsi, maybe, is the guard that kind of runs things. He's a good shooter, 42% from three on 144 attempts last year. Things kind of run through them. Through Wellage, I assume is how you say that, is another guy that has played for years. And then the center's name I will have in 1 second. Michael, again, I have no idea how to say this. Imariagbi is what I'm going to go with. He's another player, bigger, 6'7", thick guy. Had the most rebounds for them in their scrimmage. That's kind of some of the returning production that they have going. But that Michael, that center, is a transfer, so he's new for them. Also, new coach for them as well. So
what happened to their last coach?
That's another wrinkle to thinking of things. I have absolutely no idea, but they were 18-14 last year. It wasn't a great season. Right. So what are you kind of looking for most in the game?
Win. Just win. I think making defensive progressions, right? You know, like I think that's kind of a piece to the puzzle. Making those defensive progressions that we've kind of talked about over the last couple of weeks, just watching the exhibition games. Obviously, I would like to make sure that we see a more balanced start than the last time, where it was kind of squeaky bum for the first, most of the first half, and then went off. So I think it's that consistency, right? You got to start building the next 2 weeks and really getting that consistency up before you have Duke. Obviously, you don't want to look over anybody. I mean, a lot of these mid majors come in and they bite you in the ass. I mean, by you, but I'm just saying in general, right? D1 team. So you don't want to overlook them. You need to work on stuff, but I want to see a consistent kind of move forward and progression, and that's ultimately what I think we need to see from this team over the next first 5 games. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously trying to build and just trying to continue to build some of the chemistry and continuity is important before you face a team like that has the talent that Duke has. And this is a good test. I found out that their coach was hired by Southern Illinois, and they replaced him with a guy that's been an assistant there since 2016. So it doesn't really seem like much is changing. It didn't seem like they lost anybody specifically impactful because of the coaching change, and maybe this was something that they were expecting even. But yeah, they don't shoot a lot of threes. They're bottom 100 in the country last year in 3-point attempts. But if you look at kind of 3 points made, I think they were 7th in 3-point percentage last season. 9th in 3-point percentage last season. 38.3 percent on threes, which we led the country at 40.9. So they were right there with us on 3-point percentage. They were right there with us on offensive points per game. So I think it's a good test, and it's a good stepping stone to try to, as we try to level up the intensity before we get to somebody like Duke. Scoring offense 4th in the country last year, 86.5 points a game. We were 2nd at 89. So it's kind of comparable offense to what we had, and kind of the way that we did things.
And like I said earlier, they've got some athleticism. I mean, and they've got some size, especially on the wing and on the forward. Have you been paying attention to any of the games so far that have been going on? So there's 4 games right now that are active in going in college basketball.
If they're active games, I am 100% unaware of them happening right now.
All right, so we'll talk real quick scores, because we get to do this now. It's fun. Not very often on the live show during the day do we get to give you a live update on scores. So live update: Jacksonville State is up 75-32 on LaGrange. Southern Illinois and Charleston. This is a really good game. There's 11:24 left in the second. Charleston leads that 62-61. UT Arlington is up 81-47 on UNT North Dallas, and Middle Tennessee is drudging Oglethorpe. I didn't even know there was a college named Oglethorpe. 83-42. I'm trying to look what some other games that are coming up here.
There's a lot of good games
in like in the 5 o'clock hour. Hofstra, Westbury. I mean, I'm not even gonna read unless I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Marist and Harvard.
A&M is at UCF. It's kind of a decent.
That could be an interesting. Yeah. That could be an interesting game.
Moorhead plays Louisville.
That could be an interesting game. Moorhead in basketball is not like they are in football.
No,
I thought there was an actual
there isn't Gonzaga and Baylor tonight?
I don't know. Let me go to the top.
I keep looking for Gonzaga and Baylor, and I cannot find. Okay, Missouri plays Memphis. That's teams that we've heard of.
All right, here's the top 25.
Western plays Wichita State. I mean,
in the top.
Florida plays USF.
South Florida goes to That's interesting because South Florida lost their coach, so that could be a lot. An emotional. Texas and Ohio State. That's tonight. That's an interesting game especially because those are two. Yeah, Gonzaga and Baylor play tonight at 11:30.
Oh my gosh!
So I don't know about watching that.
I'll catch that one tomorrow morning, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's one of those games that if I'm up, I might check in on it because the kids aren't asleep. But it is a full slate of college basketball today. Obviously, also the UK women play today. They play UC Upstate. I think the women's team has a chance to also be very good. They might be a little underrated. Obviously, we didn't get to see the women's team play in an exhibition game like we got to see the men, which is a little different. So we didn't get to see anything and kind of analyze there. But we are going to, here at Bleed Blue Network, cover the women's team pretty extensively. We've got photography that we're going to be sending there. Look, there's a lot of aspect from the men's games. And I'll just be honest with you. And I've actually talked to UK about this. I would rather go in seats that we have than go media. I mean, the only perk to the media for me would be going to the press conference. That's about the only perk for me or any of us going to media, because they've put the media up in the rafters now. Like they're not even, in the lower.
Yeah, the women's game is later start time than I imagined it was. So I will be late, but I will be in the eruption zone, and I would like my eruption zone seat. It's at 5.
It's at 4.
It's at 5.
So I thought the women's game was at 4.
I thought it was too, and I thought the website said that too, but it is most definitely at 5 now.
Really?
Yes. So I will be very late to the men's game, but second half eruption zone I should be there, and I I don't know. I would rather sit there than sitting up at the top.
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to be a thing. And UK, I think, is talking about doing it, but like, I would rather watch it on TV, to be honest with you, than like sit there. And besides, we have enough of us that'll be at a game. We can talk about the in arena experience that everyone. I mean, I think every game we have one of our teams going to be there. I would just much rather either watch it on TV or watch it in our season tickets. Just from that. Now it's different if you get to the tournament and stuff, right? Because that's an experience. It's fun just to be there. But it's
biggest thing for me is I want to yell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would have yell or cheer or wear Kentucky.
I would have a very. Could you imagine if we had to do media for the Arkansas? Now, listen, I would do it just because I'd want to be in the room when Cal walks in for the press conference. I would take the
Somebody
hit for
might
that.
have to bite the bullet and do it. Somebody might have to bite the bullet and do that.
Yeah, that one would be worth it, right? That one would be a worthwhile kind of experience, I think. But look, we're also you will start getting a lot more coverage also of the men's team. One of the things we are going to start doing, and there's just been a lot of life things happening with Mark Pope's press conferences. We'll start covering those a lot more. Player availability, we'll start going there. A lot of things like that we'll really start getting into more now that the season's kind of going. We tried to look, it's hard when this isn't your full-time gig and you got, you guys are in class and things like that. And it's pretty hard for us to just make everything, it's so look, as we build, this is the thing we do. And we'll just analyze everything. It was really fun though the other night that Jane skipped out on, went to the bar, that Brando and I did a live watch along and had 1,500 people for the UT Tennessee football game, which was a little shocking.
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately was unable to attend that live stream, but I know we had a good time on the pregame show and a good time on the kind of the post pregame show, unfiltered pregame show. But yeah, I mean, the football game, I don't know if you want to actually kind of get into it, but there was a lot of reasons that maybe I'm happy I wasn't on that show because it's just something about Tennessee. It's just such an angry experience playing against them.
Well, yeah, and look, we'll talk about football in a minute. Let's keep talking about the basketball part of things. With tonight, what is kind of what is something you're looking for maybe from a specific player? Is there anybody you're looking forward to really watching tonight and saying, hey, all right, we know as a team there's consistency. We want to make sure from a defensive side of the ball that we do things, maybe there's a different level of intensity there. There's a different level of execution. But is there individual player or players that you would like to see X, Y, or Z from tonight as we start to get into the season?
Yeah, I think the number one thing I'm looking forward to kind of build off the exhibitions is I'll say Brandon Garrison, but also Andrew Carr, of just rebounding and using your size as an advantage, because this team has a couple of taller dudes, but they're bigger guys or guards, except for a freshman center that's 6'10" and averaged I looked at this guy. He averaged
Aiden
25 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 blocks a game in high school. That's kind of ridiculous.
Aiden Davis, right?
Yes, Aiden Davis. But yeah, so outside of him, the tallest player is 6'8", Brandon Noel that I mentioned earlier. I'm looking.
But you got some beefy guys though. 6'7", 220, 6'7", 215, 6'6", 220, 6'6", 215. These aren't little scrawny dudes. 6'8", 240.
Exactly. So they're shorter, which means you have a built-in advantage. You should come with an advantage. You should come confident in the matchup. But also they have to show that they're willing to bang down low and actually box out and be physical, because it's something that not just specifically those two, but the entire team has not been great rebounding, especially playing against smaller guys, and they're going to get challenged by a couple of the low post guys who really like to rebound, especially Noel and
is
Michael,
rebounding a concern?
Rebounder for them as well. So
is rebounding a concern for you with this team?
It shouldn't be a concern because I feel like they have pretty decent
But
size,
just from your
especially
perspective,
and
is it a concern?
it it has been so far. They haven't shown me that rebounding is going to be something that they excel at. And Pope has called them out in the press conference as well, saying that especially on the offensive board that they have just not been aggressive enough and not putting enough effort into to rebounding and especially offensive rebounding. So I think that that's an emphasis that Pope will make
Mm-hmm.
throughout the last games of this game. And I think that that's something that I'm looking forward to, specifically if Amari isn't able to go, because I feel pretty good about Amari being physical and rebounding them.
Have we
But I want
gotten
to
any
see.
update on him?
I've seen absolutely nothing on Amari.
I
I haven't
didn't,
even
but
seen his name mentioned.
But so, I mean, we know we got that report from somebody that was there saying that he's really not, like, he's fine. He was on the sideline, right? He was on the bench.
Yeah.
His shoes were on. Like, there was nothing that made it look like there was an actual injury. And what we were told was that he would have probably played if it would have been like a tournament game or an SEC game or something like that. So I mean, I feel like we would have known something if it was there. Now, does he get held? If he gets held out, that's worrisome, I think, because now are we talking about a big? But I mean, I haven't heard that he's missed practice either. Like usually you'd get something, right? And there's nothing about that. I mean, and it's also that we've had 8 days or 6 days. 6 days.
Something
In
like
6 days, you'd hear something. If it was a tournament game, right, where it's a Thursday, Saturday, maybe you don't hear anything. I just feel like he's probably okay and good to go.
I'm starting to believe that this may be a no news is good news kind of a like.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, like we said, he was fine, right? Like right after the game. Like we didn't know that we needed to put out anything else about him, any plays, and kind of like the draft decision stuff where they're like, I didn't know I had to say I was coming back. Like what? I thought I just was coming back, and then I wonder if it's one of those things. So
yeah,
I hope that's the case at least.
I wouldn't read too much into it. I think from my perspective, like I want to see this team start to figure out where their roles are on the offensive side of the ball. And what I mean by that is, Jackson Robinson was kind of the guy, in the last game against Minnesota State. I want to see that a little bit. I want to see that is Otega Oweh's kind of like the inside out guy. Lamont Butler's the drive, and is he the drive and kick guy and the get to the rim guy? Who is everyone? Because the one thing I didn't like in that Minnesota State game was that it looked like a rec league game, for the first 15 minutes, and it was just like dribble up, shoot, dribble up, shoot, dribble up, shoot. Now, is that part of like what Pope was just saying to like just go play and not actually run sets? We don't know.
I think it is, to be honest.
Maybe. So and look, I know probably some people think I'm cynical or whatever. I just feel like there's so many unknowns with this team still. I just want to see the fluidity so I know what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I think that we're just kind of wait and see, kind of waiting for the Duke game a little bit. Just
Shane asked, "What do you think about Lewis' commitment?" I think it's great commitment.
I mean, yeah, he's a really exceptional scoring guard.
You get him over 3 traditional blue bloods. I mean, that he's going to probably end up being a 5-star in the class when the rankings come out.
I think he complements Jasper and Malachi really well. He's played with both of them, and he might be undefeated with both of them in some of these different camps and NBA things that they do. I know he played out with Malachi and did for sure go undefeated with Malachi as his teammate out in NBPA top 100, I think is what it's called. So yeah, he's close with those 3. He calls Malachi Mal, like they're on nickname basis. So I think it's important that they're kind of building that relationship between their freshman class, and all of these guys have played together / are playing together. And they have a lot of chemistry, and they're kind of 2 similar guards, him and Jasper, but they kind of, it's almost like they're mentally different.
But Jasper's got a little bit more size to him, and he's a lot better on the and he's a lot better on the offensive side of the ball. I think they definitely view Jasper more as an off-ball type player and not a point guard, because Caden Lewis is an absolute I mean, he is a wizard with the basketball. Quick, passing is amazing. Great handles, can break a press. Great at getting the ball at the right spots where you need to. Now, look, obviously, the next level, you want to see progression, but you're right, and it helps that he's been playing together. And there's, also Caleb Wilson falls into a category. I think there's one thing you're seeing, right? Well, kind of two things. One, I think Pope's showing that if you play basketball in the state of Kentucky and you're a top player that can play Division I, like Kentucky's going to go try and get you. Like that's number one. And that's something that, we're not talking a ton of football right now, but to Mark Stoops' credit, Kentucky has not lost a top football recruit to Louisville. Like, I don't think Kentucky's lost a top football recruit in 6 years, maybe even longer than that, to Louisville. Now they have lost one to like a Penn State and Alabama, those type of teams, but they're not losing them to an in-state. Basketball is obviously a little bit different, right? Because we're kind of the blue blood in that perspective. But number two, I think they're also looking for guys that have experience together and that there's parts of the roster where they can plug and play. And if you look at that, what's next year, right? If you look at the roster next year, point guard, we need we're going to need a good point guard, and we're going to need to do a two guard because there's some guys on this team that are going to come back, right? Like we're not going to start at net zero next year. So I think you're seeing that roster thought process next year. And one of the things maybe you can read into it that Pope's thinking is guys that are probably gone, well, guys that are gone for sure, obviously, that have no eligibility, guys who might leave, and then where you're seeing that roster development, right? Malachi, we're going to need more bigs. So we're building. Now, does that mean Malachi plays next year? Not necessarily, but I mean, I would assume he probably sees some playing time. But, maybe Kentucky goes out and gets a center in the transfer portal, and Malachi is or maybe it's Brandon Garrison. Brandon Garrison might be the starter next year, and Malachi backing him up, right? Those are the things that I think you're starting to see from a roster build standpoint where Kentucky's going to get people.
Yeah, and you could see that none of the pieces that they've gotten don't feel like Mark Pope pieces. You know what I mean? It feels like everything is very strategic, and they went and got 2 scoring guards. You now know that you have 2 scoring guards. You can go to the and with the potential of maybe a Kriisa or the progression of some of the freshman guards. You have scoring guards. In the portal, you have to go find a defender. You have to go find your Lamont Butler. You have to go find maybe if you can keep Otega, then that kind of fills that role. But you have to go find some of the more defensive players. But the good thing is that now, where sometimes if you can have recruitments drag on, if you don't close a recruitment until March instead of November, and you don't get them signed early signing period, you may not know that you have a hole on your roster until the season ends. Or if you don't have a good base with the 2 guys that you have on your roster now, and you don't know what they're kind of planning on doing, then you can leave yourself dry. But I feel like Mark Pope is the kind of person where that is not the concern, which is always a good place to be, where you understand at least a year in advance what your program is going to look like.
Yeah, Owe has 2 years of eligibility left, so that's something to keep in mind, that maybe he's back. On the women's side of the spectrum, I think Coach Brooks has really caused a lot of excitement on that side. What is it, reserve seats, I think, or what it was, are sold out. So something.
Everything is sold out
for women. Yeah,
I don't know about tonight. I don't know about tonight, but I think season tickets are for sure sold out.
Yeah, so big, a lot of anticipation for the UK women's basketball team. They've brought in a lot of really good players. He brought in some of his players from Virginia Tech, but also top players from around the country. They're ranked a little low, probably. I think the men's team's probably ranked a little low because there's unknowns in the gelling perspective. But I think that the women's team has a chance to make a lot of noise, just like the men's team does.
Yeah, the women's team, they're in a pretty similar situation to the men's team, where it's just a matter of kind of getting the continuity and getting everybody on the same page. A lot of new pieces from a lot of different places. Two freshmen projected in the top 6 of minutes, kind of in that area from what we've seen in the little glimpses we've gotten from them and kind of reading tea leaves and stuff. But bunch of transfers, and then a couple returners for him from Virginia Tech, but only 2 players returned from last year's team here at Kentucky. It's going to be their first game in Memorial Coliseum, historic Memorial Coliseum.
For the
looking
renovated
to be the most
Memorial Coliseum.
Yeah, it doesn't look
You're
like
going to get to go to the first game.
A ton of problems. I'd say Wright State's probably.
Well, the cool thing for you, right, is that you get to cover the first game in the new Memorial Coliseum for women's basketball.
I do get to cover the first game in Memorial Coliseum. I'm very excited about that. I've been in there a couple times for volleyball, but I've never gotten to see the whole setup with the women's basketball, and it kind of all the way filled up and everybody ready to go. So I'm excited for them to get started. And I feel like Kenny Brooks brings a lot of that energy that Pope brings, and it's kind of the same juice and excitement around the program, the same influx of talent and overhaul of kind of the operation of everything. So I think it's going to be really excited. I'm excited to go tonight here in a couple hours.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the football game. Obviously, Kentucky loses to Tennessee on the road. I think it was one of those games that you kind of found yourself like the Georgia game, where you left the game kind of really pissed off that we lost and wasn't expecting that we were going to be pissed off that we lost. I thought the defense played exceptionally well for long stretches of time. I think the offense played okay in the first half, and then obviously in the second half really kind of fell off a cliff. Barryon Brown's injury didn't help that. You kind of had the feeling that they were going to get him involved, and the play that he got injured on was a very Barryon Brown, break a tackle, get a 20-yard gain. He looked very engaged, on the sideline and everything. He tried to come back, obviously he couldn't. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about how shit the SEC officiating was for that game, because there were calls. There wasn't even marginal calls. There were calls that you just look and say, you have to be an actual functioning moron not to call the game that way. Now, did Kentucky lose because of the refs? You can't fully say no, but you can't fully say yes either, because in the second half, Bush Hamdan had one of the worst called. I think our offensive play calling was horrendous, I think, for long stretches of the game. But Jaden, that first half, and just to rack this up for everybody, Brock Vandagriff getting basically punched in the head on a third down, I might add, that would have put Kentucky real close to midfield and extended a drive. The blatant offsides, I think this was the same drive, by the way. The offsides that Tennessee lined up in the neutral zone, they didn't call it, and they call a block on the back on Josh Caddis after, a 10 or 15-yard run, and he was offsides. Because he threw the flag, it's offsides, right? Like, doesn't matter. The false start penalty that they called on Kentucky, that the offensive line didn't move and two Tennessee players hit the offense, like two Tennessee D-line hit our O-line, and they call false start. None of our guys moved. The false start that Tennessee had on 3rd and goal that they scored a touchdown on that they didn't call, that would have backed them up. Do they score there? I mean, 3rd and goal from the 8 is different than 3rd and goal from the 3. Maybe they don't score. Nico wasn't necessarily having the greatest game. If they don't score, that's 3 points off the table, right? If Kentucky scores even 3, that's a 6-point swing on the drive where Brock gets punched in the head, I think there's probably a couple other ones that were not. Oh, there was a holding. There was 2 blatant holding calls where our guys was hooked on the D line when they were going for Nico and they didn't call. But look, sometimes with the holding penalties, like, you can miss those, but you can't, as a Division I self-proclaimed best conference in college football, have SEC officiating crews being that bad. What say you?
It was a pretty embarrassing performance, I would say, by the officiating crew. Did we ever get it confirmed or not, whether they got 4 timeouts in the first half?
Sorry,
have we actually looked?
No, they did,
and actually seen that they got it.
Okay. They got 4 timeouts in the first half too. Now, thankfully, it didn't bite Kentucky in the ass, but it could have, because Kentucky should have kicked that field goal, and that should have been the last play of the half. Tennessee was down there with a chance to actually make a play.
it would have run the clock. It would have allowed us to run the clock out, I believe.
Correct.
Is what the
Kentucky
fourth
had two
situation was.
Yeah, Kentucky had 2 timeouts left. They would have been able to call timeout, kick the field goal. Would have been the last action of the first half. Didn't come back to bite him in the ass, thankfully, but that was still how in 2024 with all the headset communication do you have? And even if you watch the ESPN cast, right, there was no timeouts. Tennessee had none, and all of a sudden
it was blank.
It clicks timeout. What? I remember looking. Rando and I are like, what the fuck is happening right now?
It was pretty brutal. The one that makes the least sense to me is when Brock runs out of bounds at the beginning of the game and gets shoved over.
I mean, I think there's a couple egregious ones. The false starts were pretty fucking bad.
Yeah, but false starts, there's a little bit of like, oh, I don't really know. Like, did the offensive player jump? I didn't really see. And I think that they guess most of the time on those
and
anyway.
you just say there's no flag on the play, reset the down.
That's what they should do, yes. But I believe that they guess more often than we would like to think on those kinds of plays, but they have to call something because it's obviously a penalty. Like, they can't call nothing. So I think that they guess a lot more often than we would like.
I will say this season, Kentucky has gotten the ass side of some calls, and
it's been unfortunate.
All you have to do is listen. If that interception stands, and everybody believes it should have against Georgia, this season might be completely different.
I mean, yeah, it would be interesting to think about if this team had, 2 top 10 wins. How is the morale of the locker room? I mean, it sounded like they were talking about the locker room being a little checked out and not seeming like the Kentucky guys were super excited when they were like on the TV broadcast. So I don't know if there's substance to that or not.
Against Tennessee?
That's what people were saying. That was getting talked about on the TV broadcast. I don't really believe it either.
I don't believe
they didn't show it on the. They didn't show it on the field at least.
No, the one thing that we've really talked about is no matter what you think about Stoops and what's going on this season, the one thing you can't say is that he's lost the locker room because the effort last weekend. I mean, you go on the road, night game, very hostile environment. It would have been very easy for you to get punched in the mouth and not respond. They not only responded, they had a chance to win the game. I think that that's something that shows from a culture standpoint that they haven't checked out. Obviously, culture is not everything. You still got to win football games. It's going to be interesting at the end of the season what happens because offensively, I mean, if you fire Rich Scangarello and you're 112th in the nation in total offense, how do you not fire Bush Hamdan being 124th in the nation in total offense? I think you really have to take a long, hard look at starting Cutter Boley this week with 2 weeks of practice if Brock Vandagriff can't go. I think we've seen what you get out of Gavin Wimsatt. Personally, if I'm the staff, I try and find Gavin Wimsatt a different position, whether it's tight end, whether it's a receiver, because the kid's stupid athletic, but it's clear there's no next, and this is not, and I'm not trying to be a dick when I say this. I think the kid's got a ton of athleticism, right? He throws a really pretty ball, but he's so inconsistent. Like when he steps in and throws, like you saw that one, like that 25 yard pass over the middle to Dane, and then the touchdown pass, dimes. But the rest of the time, yeah, dot.
Bradle.
But it's inconsistent. Now he either has to find that consistency real damn fast, or you kind of go to a kid like that and say, hey, look, you probably don't have a future at the next level as a quarterback. You're 6'3", X pounds and can run, and you're super athletic. You might have a chance here. You imagine him out in space if he was a tight end, I'd be terrified. Those are the things, even a wide receiver. I think that's a conversation now. Maybe they don't have it now. Maybe you have to have it in the offseason. But I think that's a conversation you might need to have, because if you go into next year and let's just say Brock either transfers or says, I'm done with football, right? Do you think they're going to go with Gavin Wimsatt, or do you think they're going to go with Cutter Boley if they didn't bring another quarterback in?
I think that they would go with a new quarterback. They would go find a guy for a year and then let Cutter go next year.
I'm saying if they couldn't get another guy in, if it's on the roster, right? Because you also got Stone Saunders coming in, so it's clear Kentucky wants to build depth at the quarterback position, not just through the transfer portal.
Is Brennan Ward a human that's committed to us? Did I invent that name?
I don't know.
I'm looking. I think we have two quarterback commits. Yeah, Stem Saunders from Pennsylvania and Brennan Ward from Columbus is another quarterback commit.
Yeah, he's a three-star.
There's a kind of right below Stem Saunders on the
but he
cumulative
Kentucky
rankings
over a lot of MAC teams.
Yeah, the problem with Stem Saunders is he committed to Liam. So there's worry that he may be leaving.
He is 100% said that he's committed.
High school could say a lot of things.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know,
Staten Sharp said he was playing 15 times. Staten Sharp said he was coming back and left.
Well, it's also
things.
Also, I think he's starting to get looks from some big schools now. If you look at Stone Saunders, right, like he had offers from Akron, Boston College, Bowling Green, UC, and Colorado. But now, you know, some of these offers from Miami and Michigan and Texas A&M. You know, if Penn State were to come in late,
Penn Saunders is good. I think he led Pennsylvania in passing.
Yeah, he broke a lot of records. If Penn State were to come in and offer him, he's a Pennsylvania kid. Maybe that would change.
A lot.
I can't believe they haven't. But look, it's clear they're trying to build something. And no matter what happens, even if you have Cutter Boley and Gavin Wimsatt on the team next year, and you go get a guy, you still have better quarterback depth than Kentucky's had in a long time. I just think that if you're going to give a shot, if you're going to give the kid a shot, right? If Brock Vandagriff can't go, which sucks because I think Brock Vandagriff was having a phenomenal game. Like, I think if Brock Vandagriff stays in that game, we probably have a really good shot of winning. I think you got to go. I think you go Cutter Boley. I understand it's Murray State, that the competition maybe isn't as good, but I think you have to give the kid a shot and see if you've got something in him. And if he struggles, you go to Gavin. Like, you have that luxury, but I think you got to do it.
I actually think that you do the opposite. I think you start Gavin, give Gavin a week of starter reps, give Gavin the full attention and build the scheme around Gavin all the way. Assuming Brock can't go. If Brock can go, Brock's the quarterback. Build a scheme around Gavin for 2 weeks, run it against Murray, see if it works, either get a lead or see it doesn't work, and then go to Cutter.
Yeah, but see, here's where I feel like that's way more dangerous. If you were to struggle with Gavin Wimsatt against Murray State, right? That is way worse, I think, from a morale standpoint for the team than if you were to start a kid like that and he struggles, because I think a lot of the guys would pat him on the back, pat him on the helmet, right? Encourage him, first start. And you go to Gavin if you need to because you've got the experience and you can maybe do something different. I think if it was the flip and you're asking him to come in potentially if it's not going well, I think is way, way worse, because now you have more pressure on the kid than if if he's just not ready.
So what happens if we go to Cutter, he stinks, it's close-ish because of turnovers and things of that nature. We bring Gavin in, and Gavin also doesn't work. And then you're screwed. Whereas, and then now you've lost the locker room completely as well. Whereas,
right, you got to think it. Well, listen, we got a guy we got a guy who was a 4-star commitment that we're not even talking about, that maybe deserves the look that nobody's talking about. Maybe he deserves it. Maybe we're talking about Cutter Boley, but maybe the answer should be Bo Allen. I mean,
they're the ones in practice. They're the ones in practice. If they think
I get it. But here's the thing: Bo Allen was a 4-star recruit. He did play a lot of football last year, right? If you need one start and you want somebody who's not necessarily who can throw the ball better, but you're not as worried about maybe having struggles from an inexperienced standpoint, and you're not don't want to worry about someone who has trouble throwing the ball, who's on your roster that could do that? I mean, when Bo Allen transferred back here, everybody was stupid happy because we were like, oh, we got Brock. Now we got Bo Allen, who knows Kentucky, knows everything, has a ton of experience, played at Tarleton State for the last 2 years, had really good stats, and now he's back. He's going to be the backup quarterback, and then all of a sudden Gavin Wimsatt's here, right? Now, is that a tell because Gavin Wimsatt's here? I don't know. But, I mean, I think you have to at least consider that possibility. If you don't want to rip the Band-Aid off for Cutter Boley, do you start Do you start Bo Allen? Because that's the question. If Gavin comes in and struggles still, who do you go to? Like, let's say he throws a pick 6 and then something else crazy happens and Kentucky finds itself down 10-0 at the end of the first quarter. You're hitting every siren and panic alarm. You will go to a true freshman, or would you rather have Bo Allen, who's got some experience and probably is going to be less phased by it?
I'm going to use the cop-out answer of if they are the same talent-wise, then I would go with Bo because of the experience. And if you're in an emergency situation, if you go Gavin and it doesn't work and you're trying to look elsewhere, I would go Bo for experience. He probably has a better control of the locker room, having been there for a little bit, being from Lexington and being involved with all of the recruitments and stuff of that nature. So I think I would go to him in that scenario. But
I know what they're worried about. You know what they're worried about. If they go to Cutter, and let's say Cutter goes for like 425, 5 touchdowns, they got to start him at Texas. They have to. I don't think they want to do that.
Don't do it. Just don't do it.
If you start Bo Allen, he throws for 320 and 3 or 4 touchdowns, you got to start him at Texas. Okay, I think you can get away with that. Because then you're going with a guy who's played a lot of football. I don't think you're going to get away with anything.
I don't think you're getting away with anything.
I think the number one issue with this whole thing is not necessarily what if Cutter struggles. I think it's the what if Cutter plays like he looks like he's a stud, and now you got to throw him in the furnace in Austin the next week because you look like morons if you don't. That's the problem.
So it now sounds like lose to start Cutter.
I mean, I would do it. I mean, look, would you rather have if he does it? I mean, are you not more excited if Cutter Boley came in again, assuming that Brock is hurt? If Cutter Boley comes in and lights the world on fire, are you not A, more excited to watch the Murray State game, and B, more curious about the Texas game the next week?
I mean,
just from an interest perspective.
Yes, interest perspective, I would be much more interested in watching Cutter play quarterback than Gavin. But fan interests should not play any real factor into a coaching.
Okay, but we're talking the select fans.
Decision. Yeah. Okay. As fans, then heck yeah, start Cutter. That'd be awesome. That might be the only way you get my butt in the seat because I'm not going.
If
it's Gavin.
It would make that Louisville game in 4 weeks potentially really exciting if all this happened and it ends up being the kid from Lexington that comes in and brings us to a 6th straight
kid from
win.
LaRue County. The kid from LaRue County.
Yeah.
It would.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it would be dope if he was awesome, but he definitely needed physical development from high school. He's gained
a lot, though. I mean, if you look at him, he looks completely different from high school. Didn't he know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a thought, but I don't know the thought. I'm holding.
Yeah, he is from Lexington. He went to Lexington Christian. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he transferred there his sophomore season from LaRue County.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know what? Still, that's where he played, so I knew I wasn't absolutely crazy.
No, you're right. I was just
because Gavin's.
I was throwing in the LaRue County shout out. Yeah,
okay, gotcha. Look, I think that I think that's going to be the interesting thing this whole week is about that with the injuries to Brock. Obviously, we hope Brock's okay, and if Brock can go, then if Brock can go, what you hope is Kentucky gets a 30-point lead, goes into the third quarter, and you can put Cutter in for a quarter and a half to get him some reps, right? That's ultimately what we would hope.
Should happen.
Yeah, that's what we would hope. I just don't know. I just feel like with what we've seen from Gavin in what we've seen is just throwing the ball wise. I mean, it was the same way at Rutgers, right? He would throw darts or he would throw it and you're just like, what's going on? To me, he's too erratic in the pocket. He's too fast. Like nothing is motion. When he drops back, it looks like he's in hyperspeed. It's like back.
The game is not slow for him.
No, it's not. And that's the problem. Very fast for him. Yeah, he needs. Yes. Yes, he doesn't
and the game
have that.
The game does not get slower at Texas with those defensive ends. Like this,
And the
same thing is going to happen again.
And the thing that you thought, or the thing that was hard, I actually think Brock was having a really good game at Tennessee. He was getting through progressions. It almost looked like the game had slowed down for him a little bit. And I'll be honest, I was actually really impressed with how he ran the ball. Now, kind of to get to the last point about football, the thing that really pisses me off is the fact that we look like, from an offensive coaching side, that we don't know what the hell is going on 90% of the time. Because why we don't do things that work really are just unreal, annoying at this point. We talked about the RPO, we talked about running, but we were running the ball and having success, and then we just tried dumb shit. Like, it was third and manageable inside field goal range, and we throw a pick that basically was a pick six because I think Tennessee scored on the next play of the play right after that. Why are we throwing the fucking ball there and not running? When you saw that, were you saying throw the ball, or were you saying run the fucking ball? Take 3. There was 11 minutes left, 12 minutes left?
Yeah, I am pretty much always run the ball, especially if Gavin is in the game, mostly because I don't know. Maybe I'm too negative on him. I just don't believe he is a quality SEC. Like, he's not a starting SEC quarterback, in my opinion. So you have to use what he's good at, and that's running. So if Gavin's in the game, it was
only a 4-point game then too. It was 14. It was 14-10. And if Kentucky kicks the field goal, I think there was 11. It would have been 11 minutes and change left on the clock, and you're down by 1. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Tennessee scores a touchdown. Kentucky scores a touchdown on the next drive. We get the 2-point conversion, cut it to 3, and then obviously, offensively, we couldn't move the ball anymore. But are you not sitting there going, kick the field goal and get the 1? It's a tight game. Like, if you kick the field goal right there, it's a 1-point game. You're giving it back to Tennessee the way the defense is playing. I like my chances at that point with 10 minutes to go, down 1.
I mean, we got the ball with 13 minutes, down 3. Like, you gotta.
Down 4.
I don't know. I think
4. We're down 4.
I think the biggest problem is that they simply just can't score in the red zone. Like, they had 4 scoring opportunities. 4 times they got inside the 30, 5 scoring opportunities.
But we don't do
10
anything
points when they got inside the 30.
I feel like we run like 2 plays. Like, you run where the guy tries that little jet sweep, like little almost like L go, or we try and run the ball up the gut. Why do we not try, like, I don't know, an RPO? Like, explain that to me. Josh Caddis catches a 26, 27-yard touchdown pass, right? RPO, middle of the field, wide open. Why do we not do that? We do it once in the game. I think we did it twice. Both of them go for like, one went for like a touchdown, one went for like 15 yards to Kamari Anderson. Why do we not do that anymore? Like, that's the things that make you go, why? What is up with this offensive coordinator? It's like he does something that works. And again, a lot of us play NCAA 25, and if you have a play that works, I'm going to go to the play that works until you stop it, and then I'm going to go to something else, right? That was the one thing I'll give some of their offensive coordinators that have been here. If it worked, ride the bitch. Like, ride that stupid fucking call until it's over. Like, ride it until you can't get successful. Why do we not do that?
Yeah, I don't really understand what some of the red zone game plan is. I'm
just talking about in general, though, Jaden. Like, it's not just.
But they don't really struggle till they get to the red zone, though. They get to the red zone all the time.
But how many times in that game against Tennessee did we have 3rd and less than 5, and we tried to throw the ball instead of running? There was at least 4 times where I was like, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, and we tried to throw even where where Brock gets knocked out of the game, right? 3rd and 1. 3rd and 1. Your quarterback's out of the game now because you're a dumbass and you tried to pass the ball and go heavy play action on 3rd and less than 1, and they blitz and they knock the shit out of your quarterback, and now he's out of the game instead of trying to run the ball.
Is this evidence piece number 1 that Stoops doesn't have control of the offense?
I would say 100%.
I would imagine Stoops will run the ball if you gave him 100%, 3 or 4 chances on 3rd and 1.
If you're the person that's in the camp that says we're not doing this because Mark Stoops runs the offense, I'm gonna tell you right now, if Mark Stoops was calling those plays, you're running the ball. We passed the ball in situations where I think everybody was like, run the ball, Like, we want to pass the ball, but there was a lot of we were running. We averaged 5.8 yards per play running the ball. It was third and less than 5. Run the ball.
Yeah, I think there has to be a reason. There had to be some type of game plan analysis that said if Tennessee does this look, you throw, right? Because I don't think that you would start.
But that's in-game adjustments. That's where you see what's actually happening in the game flow, and you keep going to it. Look at South Carolina. We gashed them in the first 5 plays, and then we tried to throw the fucking ball the whole game.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of the situation stuff is poor. But I mean, they're also I don't know. The offensive line is doing nothing. Like, if it, I hate to say it, but it's like, if it had worked, you'd a lot. Like, some of these plays are working. They can't get the catch, right. Another interception goes off somebody's hands. They get sacked immediately, and he gets crushed, and he's out of the game. The quarterback that really gave you a chance of winning the game. And I think that's something we haven't really talked about is I know what the scoreboard said. Game didn't feel like a 10-point game. It felt like we got crushed.
I didn't. I don't feel like that. I don't feel like we got crushed last week. I feel like last week was very frustrating. I feel like the game against that Tennessee game felt like a missed opportunity. It didn't feel like we got crushed.
But it was a missed opportunity because of we used the word shenanigans in the pregame show. There were all of the shenanigans, right? We were getting fumbles. They missed 3 field goals from a guy that had never missed from that distance before in his career.
No. One of them was his career long, and he never kicked the field goal that long. Would have been a career long.
Perfect from inside 45, and I think all 3 of them were inside 45.
No, one of them was 48, I think.
Okay, well, he missed 2 from inside a range that he's never missed from.
Flip on the flip side, Tennessee got every call in the first half too. So if we look at the missed field goals in the first half and the missed calls in the first half, if you want to call even, then call even there. It was still it should have been a 1-point game with 10 minutes to go, and we make a despite our horrendous offensive play calling in the third quarter, we should have been down by 1 in the fourth with 10 or 11 minutes left. We kicked the field goal and we didn't, and that's the frustrating part.
Yeah, but on top of those missed field goals, they also dropped a touchdown.
You're cutting out.
Missed a wide open touchdown. So the offense was
that was a wide open.
There was one that was dropped that was wide open. There was one that was dropped that was open, and one that was overthrown.
Yeah, no, that was late. That was in the fourth quarter when he hit that one over the middle. That one in the middle, and he's gone if he catches that. Yes, I get that, but there were plays like that offensively on both sides. I mean, Kentucky dropped 1 too. I mean, not that would have been a big play. The diving one though, you got to give him a little bit. That was a tough catch. I mean, he had to lay out for it, and he landed. I mean, that's a hard catch. No matter which way you slice it. Anyway, man, it was frustrating. I would just put it that way.
5.5% success rate, 6 yards of play. That's not as good as the. I don't know. I guess I'm pretty frustrated
sometimes
still,
to get it up to
despite it being close. I'm frustrated by the hope. I know, but I'm just talking about some of the problems that we've seen and some of the.
Yeah.
I think my internet is struggling right now.
It's all right. We're gonna wrap this up anyway here in just a minute. Give me your score prediction for tonight and your player of the game.
Score prediction for the night, I will go 95 to 70. 95 to 70. Player of the game will be, I'll go Lamont Miller today. A couple steals.
Okay. I'm going to go 91 to 76. And I'm going to say the player of the game today is going to be Jackson Robinson.
Never going to be a bad call.
No. So appreciate everyone listening. We'll be back tomorrow. It is election day in the U.S., so everyone's going to probably be all super excited not to listen to that. So come join us for the show tomorrow. We're going to recap everything that happened in the game today, and we'll be back shortly and talking about that. And then obviously any other news that we hear kind of moving forward. So Jaden, we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the game. Have fun covering the women's game. We'll watch your updates on the